When I first started working on my research, I had no idea how much it would eventually be worth. Years of sleepless nights, failed experiments, and countless revisions finally led me to something groundbreaking, technology that could change entire industries. I trusted only a handful of people with the details, and one of them, unfortunately, was my wife. I thought sharing my dreams with her meant she'd stand by me, but I didn't realize she would carry my secret straight to her father. Her father was a businessman, the type of man who believed money solved everything. I had never liked the way he looked down on me, but I stayed silent for the sake of peace in my marriage. When he first asked about my research, I brushed it off, saying it wasn't ready. But he wasn't the type to take no as an answer. I should have known something was wrong when my wife suddenly became distant. She'd ask strange questions about my files, where I stored backups, and who I trusted with my work. I assumed she was just showing interest, maybe finally supporting me. I couldn't have been more wrong. One morning, I walked into the kitchen to find her father on the phone, talking about figures that sounded strangely familiar. The numbers made my stomach drop. Later that day, I discovered my entire project had been sold to a massive corporation for $37 billion. I didn't see a single cent. My wife and her father had signed the deal behind my back, claiming the rights as if the research was theirs. I confronted her, shaking with rage, but she only smiled coldly. "You're just a scientist. You never would have made that money without him. Be grateful." Her words cut deeper than a knife. Years of sacrifice, gone in an instant. And she expected me to be thankful. For a while, I felt destroyed. I considered giving up entirely. But then something inside me snapped. I decided if they thought they could play with me, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Revenge wasn't about money, it was about pride, and I was going to take everything from them in a way they'd never forget. I still had access to certain parts of my research, notes and formulas that weren't included in the files they stole. I refined them, created a new, more advanced version of the project, but this time I did everything in secret. No one knew where I was working, and I built it under a new identity. Meanwhile, my wife and her father basked in their wealth. They flaunted their success in the media, appearing in interviews, celebrating the brilliance of their deal. But the cracks began to show when the company realized the stolen research was incomplete. The technology worked only halfway, missing the vital pieces I had intentionally kept hidden. As the company scrambled, lawsuits piled up. My wife's father lost credibility overnight, investors pulled out, and their empire began to crumble. By the time they realized I was behind it, it was already too late. I revealed my new version of the research to the world under my own name. It was more powerful, more effective, and this time I partnered with ethical investors who respected me. My project soared, leaving theirs in the dust. Within months, I was celebrated globally as the true innovator. My wife came crawling back, tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness. She said she had been manipulated by her father, that she never meant to hurt me. But I had seen the greed in her smile that day in the kitchen, and I knew better. Forgiveness was out of the question. Instead, I left her with nothing. The house, the cars, the luxury, all gone when her father's empire collapsed. They had billions for a moment, but in the end, they were left with ashes. I walked away with more than just success. I had my dignity, my name cleared, and a future they could never touch. And as for revenge, it wasn't the billions I gained that mattered. The priceless part was watching them lose everything they had stolen from me. They thought they'd buried me by stealing my work. Instead, I buried them with my silence, my patience, and my revenge. That was worth far more than $37 billion could ever buy.